I had just taken off my blazer, letting it fall carelessly onto the chair as I entered my apartment. The silence was deafening. Too quiet. It wasn't the peaceful kind of quiet that invites rest after a long journey. It was the kind of silence that sits heavy in the air, suffocating, as if everything around you was frozen in time. I hadn't even taken a moment to unpack my carry-on bag. I hadn't even kicked off my heels. The low hum of the refrigerator and the slight buzz of my phone, still buried deep in the side pocket of my bag, were the only sounds breaking the stillness. 40-8 hours. 4 countries. A $3 billion deal that had cost me my sanity, my health, and my sleep. And now, I was home. Only to be greeted by this deafening silence. I turned on the lamp near the doorway. The bulb flickered once, hesitated, then stabilized. The apartment was exactly as I had left it, a week ago, empty, untouched. The smell in the air was stale, as if time had passed while I was gone, yet nothing had changed in this little world of mine. The same unopened Amazon packages sat by the door. I kicked off my heels, feeling the weight of 100 miles in my legs. As I opened my laptop, something compelled me to check my email first. As if I had to check it, even if there was nothing waiting for me. But I was wrong. I wasn't prepared for what I found. Subject line, your position at Vantage type timestamp, 3:02 p.m. sent while I was still mid-air, somewhere over Frankfurt. Without thinking, I clicked it open. The email was short, but it was cold. Too cold. It felt like it had been written by legal, not a person who actually knew me. Effective immediately. Your position at Vantage Tech is terminated. Details regarding your final compensation and exit logistics will follow. That was it. No thank you. No recognition of the countless hours, the late nights, the grueling international flights. No acknowledgement that I had just flown across 4 continents. Navigating endless time zones and managing the most complicated deal in the company's history. Nothing. Just 2 sterile words. Effective immediately. The world around me seemed to tilt. My breath caught in my throat as I sat frozen, staring at the screen. How could this be? I hadn't even had time to unpack my suitcase, let alone process what had just happened. I had spent years building my life around this company, and now, they'd taken it all away with a single email. I stared at the wall for what felt like hours. The email replayed in my mind, over and over again. The sound of it echoed like a gunshot in an empty room. Effective immediately. The words echoed in my brain, drowning out everything else. I tried to call my boss, but his line was disconnected. I tried to call HR, but they didn't pick up. It didn't make sense. How could this be happening? The reality of it hit me like a wave. Everything I had built over the last 10 years, the deals, the contracts, the risks I had taken, was gone. Wiped out. Just like that. I had dedicated everything to this company. 10 years of late nights, of sacrificing family time, of constantly proving myself. And this was how it ended. I didn't know what to do next. The apartment felt smaller now, as if the walls were closing in on me. I stood up and grabbed my keys, almost on autopilot. I needed to get out of there, to breathe. I drove through the city with no particular destination in mind, my mind still racing. The silence in the car felt suffocating, the weight of everything pressing down on me. I kept replaying the email in my mind, trying to make sense of it. But the more I thought about it, the more it seemed intentional. They had planned this. They had erased me. The next few days were a blur of confusion and disbelief. I kept working, keeping up appearances, attending meetings, responding to emails, but my mind was somewhere else, replaying the moment over and over again. The demotion, the betrayal. How could they just do that to me? I couldn't help but wonder, what was my worth to them? What was I worth to anyone? They had erased me from their systems, pulled me from every project, cut off my benefits, my health insurance, and my access to everything. I was nothing. I was invisible. But as the days passed, something inside me began to shift. I wasn't going to let this be the end. I had worked too hard for this to be how my story ended. I started reflecting on everything I had accomplished. Every success I had achieved, every challenge I had overcome. I had spent the last decade building this company. I had fought my way up from being just another analyst to leading some of the most complex and high-profile deals in the company's history. I had worked day and night, often sacrificing my personal life, just to get to the top. And now, I was being pushed aside, made to feel like my contributions meant nothing. But that wasn't the truth. That wasn't the reality of who I was. And I wasn't going to let them get away with it. I began reaching out to old colleagues, people who had worked with me, who knew the work I had done, who understood the kind of professional I was. Slowly, I started rebuilding my network. I started making connections again. I wasn't sure where it would take me, but I knew I had to do something. And then, one day, I got the call. It was from a competitor, one of the companies I had worked with in the past. They had heard about my demotion, and they wanted me to come in. They wanted me to lead their legal and compliance team, to help them build the systems that I had once built at Vantage Tech. Without hesitation, I accepted, but this time, it wasn't just about taking a job. This time, it was about something bigger. I wasn't just going to walk into a new position and blend in. I was going to build something stronger, something better. I wasn't just going to be another employee. I was going to be the architect. The first few months were a whirlwind. I threw myself into the work, not just to prove something to them, but to prove something to myself. I was building something new, something I could call my own. The deals I closed were bigger, the teams I led were more efficient, and the results spoke for themselves. And then, I got another call. It was from Vantage Tech. They wanted me back, but by then, it was too late. I had already moved on. I had already built something that mattered more to me than any company ever could. I wasn't going back to a place that had thrown me away, so I wasn't going to let them have that power over me anymore. I spent the next few months turning that initial setback into a comeback. I grew the business, built a team, expanded the company's reach into new markets. Every deal we closed, every success we achieved, reminded me that I didn't need them. I didn't need Vantage Tech to define me. I had always been the one holding the key to my own success. Then came the call that changed everything. A rival company, the one that had offered me the role in the first place, asked me to come in and lead a global expansion strategy. They were ready to put their trust in me, to give me full control, and to make sure that I was the one leading the charge. I knew at that moment, with absolute clarity, that I was in control. It wasn't about revenge. It wasn't about proving anyone wrong. It was about doing something I had always wanted to do, building my own legacy. As I sat in my new office, looking out over the skyline, I thought about everything that had led me here. The demotion, the betrayal, the silence. But in that moment, I realized something profound. I was no longer defined by a company. I was defined by what I had done, what I had built, and who I had become. And I wasn't done yet. This wasn't the end. This was only the beginning. I was going to rewrite the script, and no one could take that from me. The power wasn't in the title or the position. The power was in the work. The power was in the trust. And now, it was mine.